So I have to make good on this promise. This is one that's been a long time coming, for about a month. Every Trick in the Book by Ice Nine Kills. I originally wanted to get this done around the same time as Purple by Baroness. However, the Heavy Metal Holidays project was one that was very time sensitive, so that unfortunately took a little bit of precedent. So here we are. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So let's talk about this disc because it does have some interesting things to talk about, and I'm going to try to keep this kind of brief, considering every one of you is probably thinking, oh, he is going to shit all over this album, he's not going to like this, and you're probably thinking about turning off the video. I'm not going to give this band very much grief at all, to be perfectly honest with you. I'll just give you that foresight. So, Every Trick in the Book by Ice Nine Kills. We talked about this band once before in, I believe it was Punk Goes 90s 2. They did Good Riddance Time of Your Life by Green Day. And I don't think I gave them a real fair take, considering I spent more time talking about how Good Riddance is overplayed to death, even to this day, like 15, 16, 17 years later, however long it has been. But these guys are a metalcore band that have experimented a little bit with horror, I guess, as people would call it, or, some people might say there's a little bit of emo in there, or pop punk, or this or that, or blah, blah, blah. Whatever the fuck you want to call it, just go ahead and call it. It's a band, and it's a little bit more on the accessible side of metalcore, one that certainly applies to the same crop that would listen to some of the bands that people tend to dislike, it's getting old. It really is, even to me. But this is an album that's based around, like, every track is based around a book, which is an interesting concept. One that's been done before, but not one that really is done all the time in this way, where each individual track represents a different book, such as Animal Farm or The Exorcist. We have Dracula in here. And there's even some interesting ones in here, like Alive, the story of the Andes survivors, which is track 4, The Plot Sickens. Either that or Beatrice Sparks with Go Ask Alice. That's not one that you typically see. But I have to throw a piece of criticism out there immediately. Actually, it's more like a funny little story, is the fact that whenever I was listening through this, and Alice, which is track 7 about, Go Ask Alice by Beatrice Sparks, came on, the very first line was Dear Diary, and I immediately thought that it was going to be not this track. I thought it was going to be the next song, which was based off of the Diary of Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl. The song is called The People in the Attic. We're going to return to that song momentarily. Because of the diary line, I thought that I had gotten a warp disc that had those tracks flip-flopped or something like that, which is kind of hysterical. But after doing a little bit of research, reading up on some lyrics, realized that that was not the case at all. Missed opportunity? I don't know. Who cares? It was kind of funny to me. But this is a band that definitely employs the metalcore style and does so a bit uniquely. And within this album, since each track is based off of a novel, they're trying to add a little bit of contextual idea to it. They are not one to really dive into the historical text of the matter as far as trying to recreate that sort of prose, that sort of writing style for the lyrics. It's instead one that feels like it has a bit of a modern touch to it. And the touchstones actually work out pretty well because the lyricism is not that bad on this disc. In fact, at some points in time, it's pretty darn good. So, with that in mind, what about the music? The music is one that, as I said, has a lot of hallmarks of metalcore, but where the whole horror sentiment comes in is in the way in which they're trying to make a very uneasy, very eerie sort of atmosphere along with this. The vocals are a mixture of harsh growls mixed with higher clean vocals. This is something that you traditionally would hear someone talking about in regard to a metalcore band such as Atreyu, either that or even going into the groups such as Bless the Fall and things like that. So if that's not really your cup of tea, this band may or may not be for you. But I have to talk about The People in the Attic, to speak about a song very briefly. And I have to talk about the one that this band did really the best job with. Considering this is one that feels complete. This one almost dabbles a little bit into melodic death metal in just sort of construction, in a construction standpoint here. The solo that's in this track, which solos are largely kind of absent on here, is one that really just makes the entire song. It really makes this song, it puts you in this scenario, it puts you in the situation. There's some flavor that's thrown in there trying to, really recreate the idea of an SS enforcer coming to the home or the place where Anne Frank was being stashed, and kind of taking over and removing the family for them to be going to the camps. And that's one that's, you try to do that to really add a little bit, accuracy to it, or, fully tell the story. Sometimes it comes off as a bit corny or a bit weird. Other times it works out. This is one that's sort of right in the middle. But this is a song that, lyrically speaking, is well done. It's being said it feels like it's being said in the voice of somebody who is reading along with the book and thinking of what they would be thinking in this situation. Literally putting themselves in Anne Frank's shoes only in 2015 as opposed to when this was taking place during World War II. And like I said, the solo just makes the song. It gives it that nice little added bonus, that added flavor. Really have to praise this track. It is very, very good. It's definitely my highlight on this album. The last 3 songs on this disc are very strong because it felt like going up to the people in the attic with the first 7 tracks that there was a bit of a formula that was forming just a little bit. So even though there's this large and lavish concept of each song being based off of a book, you put it into your own style, but the style doesn't morph or move all of that much, which is fine. You know what your fans like, and it's, I guess, the best that I could say it. But aside from that, at least the concept itself or the typicality is one that seems to be one of your strengths because you write very, very well in that regard. But I just like the last 3 tracks. It just had something unique, something new to add to the table with each passing song. One that was a little bit softer in Testimony, which was the very next track, which is based off of a Thomas Hardy novel, Tales of the, I think it's the Urbervilles, I want to say. I'm trying to go off of memory here a little bit. And then Hell in the Hallways is based off of Carrie, which is, of course, the famous Stephen King novel. Overall, this is an album that, like I said, while it not necessarily is targeted toward a guy like me or a fan like me, is not a terrible listen. A lot of people get bogged down by the singing style, some of the vocals that are employed. They really give that a lot of grief, but whenever you sort of separate yourself from that and just try to take in some of the context, this is one that's put together in a way that has a terrific theme, a theme that can be very well adjusted, and you realize that you can listen to this stuff very easily. It just seems like oftentimes it's the topicality that's being spoken about or sung about that tends to be the real decaying point, the point that sort of pushes you away and establishes a lot of those pre-existing criticisms or stereotypes about this genre of music. Of course, there's the plentitude of fans that bands like this have that don't mind that at all. In fact, they prefer it. But then there are those on the outside, those that don't like it, that use some of these generalized stereotypes in order to really label them. So this is one that I think sort of ascends beyond the stereotype and does something that's kind of clever enough that gives it a little bit of charm, and that charm is pretty well received. If this is not going to be one that is technically reviewable for 2015 or part of a list or anything like that, since those have all been made, but I'd probably give this like a 78, 79 out of 100. Not bad. It really isn't all that bad. I think a lot of people will give it a bad rap, to be perfectly blunt, and I don't think that's too fair in this case. There are other bands that put out way worse shit this year. And we talked about 10 or 12 of them in the 10 worst albums of 2015. I'll link that video in the description box. It's pretty funny. What did you guys think about Ice Nine Kills Every Trick in the Book? Those of you who have listened to this and know this band, what do you think about them? What do you think about this disc? Did you like the concept? Let me know in the comments below. Cover Killer Nation, and 2015's done now officially. Enjoy and have a happy New Year. This is being posted on New Year's Eve, so be safe at your parties. Get wild, get crazy, get drunk, do whatever you want, but just be safe, be smart, and I will talk to you guys next year. See you later.